Hey, what's up, family? This is Mia, and welcome to my humble abode. It's been a while, so I wanted to do a check in video to touch base with you and let you know how I'm doing. With that being said, let's begin. I have been gone for about 6 months now, I believe, and I felt like it was time for me to make a check in video with you to let you know that I am okay and I do plan on coming back, but I am doing it incrementally. But I wanted to definitely touch bases with you all. I see that you all are still watching my videos. I've had some more subscribers. Welcome to the channel, welcome to the family. And I just wanted to let you all know that I was okay. I had a scare. So this video is pretty much checking in with you, being a little vulnerable to let you know what I was going through, something that I've learned that was very serious and could have led to something else. Also, I'm going to touch on where I've been or what has happened, and it's coming from a place of love, what I discovered about myself, what I'm doing now to pretty much move forward and to heal and to grow and so forth. So we're going to touch on those in this video. And the purpose of this video is to not only give you a check-in, but also a little love tap for those that are probably experiencing the same thing that I've experienced and you don't realize it. So let's get started with that. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is where I've been. Outside of this, I do work. I also am in class. I'm 3 classes away from getting my master's degree in education and innovation. I'm excited. And family. And really spending time to love myself and get to know myself and to heal. The initial thing that took me away a few months ago is work. Work was getting very stressful. And if I didn't tell you already, in my role, I work in IT management as a director and I have a team. I also have the task to be a change advocate because when I was initially hired, one of the reasons I was hired was because my supervisor at the time wanted to implement changes into the unit and he selected me because he felt like I could do it. Being a change advocate is one of the hardest things to do. It is definitely, I would say it is definitely, I'm trying to look for a word for it, underrated. Being a change advocate, right? And you hear people say change all day. To be a true change advocate is so underrated. You take a beating when you're a change advocate. And that's pretty much what happened. For about 3 years, I've been in the role now for 3 years. And the 3 years have been rough off and on for me, especially as an African American woman in IT management. But I would say the last 6 months has been really difficult to the point where it's almost like those few years prior to that and those 6 months is like it doubled. It felt like the stress doubled to the point where it was overbearing. And I started having a breakdown. I started physically, emotionally, mentally. I had a breakdown. My body was just, it was burnt out. I was just going through it. And I started feeling weird pain and everything to the point where I finally just mentally realized I'm heading in a downward spiral. My family started getting worried about me and I had to stop. I just had to shut everything down and I had to really start doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of self-awareness, a lot of protecting of myself and really introducing myself to myself. So, needless to say, some of the things, without going into a lot of details, some of the things that really started taking a toll on me was that mean things were said. And I'm being open. Mean things were said. And it was just a lot of very high stress situations where I'm constantly going back and forth with staff members. And it's not, I can't even say going back and forth. It was really a one way. In this role, and we'll talk about that another time, but in this role, you have to have a lot of professional restraint. But I got to the point where I was allowing professional restraint to really overtake self-defense and self-care and setting boundaries. There you go. Instead of doing that and defending myself and setting boundaries and being firm on my boundaries, I had a lot of professional restraint. And when I say professional restraint, what I mean is somebody say something to me reckless, there's a professional way to address everything, right? Instead of addressing everything, because I was listening to my leadership or people that I thought that had my back at the workplace, trying to hear them say, well, don't worry about that, don't speak on that, just leave that alone, don't worry about that, handle it that way. Because I was listening to the guidance of other individuals who's been in the game longer, so I'm looking at them as mentors, I didn't realize that I was tearing myself up on the inside. And I was doing more damage to myself because I was holding it in, because my mind, my heart, my gut was all like, oh, nah, sis, we ain't handling this. We got to stop this. You need to say something. But instead, I held it in. And what it did, it started to manifest itself to the point of stress. It started really getting to me. And it still does a little bit now, to be honest. And I got to the point where it started to consume me. And I felt the pain in my neck and in my back. I was constantly having headaches. And I remember one day I was sitting there and I had a sharp pain in my neck. It was like an achy pain. And I remember sitting up. No, I laid down and I said, well, I'm going to take a quick nap because I got this pain in my neck. I got this headache and everything. And when I laid down, I would say about an hour later, I woke up and I couldn't get up. I literally couldn't get up. I couldn't sit up. I was paralyzed almost, to the point where I had to call Ronnie J, my significant other, and I was like, I need help getting up. And he had to pick me up gently by my neck and by my head to help me sit up. And he had to literally walk me to the room to help me get into bed because I couldn't move. Every step was so painful. And I was in the bed for a couple of days because I couldn't really move. I was scared. I was very scared because I felt like something happened. And I thought I messed up a nerve. I thought that was it. I was like, man, I can't walk anymore. Life is hard. Life's going to get bad, real bad, really quick. And that happened to me over 3 times. That was the first time that shook me, but the other 2 or 3 times really did it in where over the next 5 or 6 months while I'm constantly dealing with this stress, it's getting worse and worse. And that was the worst part of it. That was the point where my body finally was manifesting to, it was getting sick. And I had a good friend later on that Georgie, she told me that to not ever do that again, right? Because her daughter went through something similar, and those were actually signs of a possible stroke. That if you kept doing that, and needless to say, she just recently told me that, so that almost got to me too. So needless to say, once I started seeing my body do that, and my body was shutting down, and I was going through all that pain. That's when I realized I gotta stop. I said, it's something that's happening and I have to figure out what that is, because my body is totally pissed off at me right now. Because I totally disrespected it in some shape or form, because I'm trying to be a professional restraint, aka superwoman in this situation, instead of listening to my body, my mind, and my soul. I'm not listening to none of that. I'm just trying to fight through it. And my body won. And I had to sit down. And that's one of the reasons why I totally let go of everything at the time, because it was a warning. It was the scariest warning I had in my life. And I know some people may say, that's it. But until you experience it, where your body has a complete shutdown and it starts doing different things that you're not used to, it's the most scariest thing that you ever had to experience, at least for me. And the only way, and this is how I knew it was stress, right? The only way I found out to get better with it was by listening to my body and setting boundaries. So I had to get to the point where I was like, something's wrong. Because even when I went out of town to work, I was by myself and I had to go to San Antonio to help with that campus setup. And it's crazy because I spent those 3 days really meditating and thinking about what was wrong. And I come to that conclusion. I learned to listen to my body, and I learned that there was some boundaries I needed to set. So that's what I spent the next few months going through, that transformation of not only pain, but also going through that transformation of understanding. And it's almost like a rebirth of who I am. So that's that. Now, next, I'm going to talk about what I've been holding on to and what I learned to let go. Because you heard me say that I had to go through a rebirth, right? I realized that I was more caring and more concerned with the well being of others than I was for myself, right? And what I mean by that is, when I told you earlier, I was listening to people I looked at as mentors and people that dealt with the individuals before. And they mean well, right? But a lot of people will tell you, it's okay, don't worry about it, just hold on a little longer. And I think sometimes I realize that I can have a stoic look, right? I'm not an emotionally reactive person. I'm very emotional. I'm very sensitive. I'm a woman. I got this. I'm a human being. I love me, and this is who I am. But on the front, I guess I can look very stoic. I can look like nothing's wrong. I have that almost like a strong black woman complex, I guess. I don't know, superhero complex. I don't know how you want to identify it, but I have that mindset where I'm like, I can deal with this. I got this. And I guess since a lot of people don't see that emotion in me and coming out of me, they assume that I don't have it. The downfall of that is that I also have that mentality at times, and I take on a lot of unnecessary foolishness because I feel like I could fight through it. And that's not good. That doesn't really help me at all. There was times where I should have spoke out about things, but because I was recommended to do elsewise, or you're a professional and you should do it this way, you should do it that way, I listened to them, but I didn't listen to my heart. I didn't listen to who I was in my gut, because I had to learn what my boundaries were. I had to relearn what my boundaries were, and really what my fears were too. I had to really think about what my fears were, what I was scared of, what am I holding back on. And one of the things that I came to realize is I'm not afraid to, when it comes to conflict, right? I'm not afraid to deal with conflict, but I am the type of person, or I was the type of person, that preferred to not deal with it, because I like being peaceful. I'm a really chill, laid back person. And I try not to, because I'll be like, that's going to stress me out. I don't feel like dealing with it, so I'm going to blow it off. Do what they say, I'm going to blow it off. That was my downfall. So I had to really do some searching and be like, I can't do that no more, because that's how it has to happen. I have to get out of that. But it wasn't just me just making a decision one day. It was literally me going through a transition, and I had to reset in order to go into that direction, right? So I already talked about understanding that I had boundaries and I had to learn to listen to my body. That was a transition. That was a process that I had to go through. And one of the things that I had to do was that I had to really become self aware, even more so. You think you know yourself, but then you have to take moments out to really get to know yourself. But I had to really become self aware. I had to do affirmations, meditations, spiritual searching, soul searching, to really understand not just who I am, but what I'm afraid of, and also the issues. Because I believe what is without is a reflection of what is within, right? And as I was dealing with everything in my current reality that I was sitting there and looking at and dealing with every day, I actually had to take time out to see, why was it getting it to me so bad? Why was it frustrating me so bad? Why was I getting emotionally involved? Because I didn't want to deal with the conflict, not because I was scared of it, because I like being a peaceful individual. Because I had that mindset of, I'll deal with it later, it came back and bit me in the butt, even though my mind and my gut was like, don't do that. You need to speak out. Secondly, it was overcommitting. I gave a lot at the time to that role. I gave a lot emotionally and physically, and that was too much. And one thing I learned, that even though you give all that and you contribute all that, it's not, is it really benefiting you, right? Or are you doing it because you feel you have to? And at the time, I felt like I had to. I was very over, I wouldn't say very overcommitted, but I was more overcommitted than what I should have been. Another thing was my expectations of my environment at the time was not sustainable for my well being, right? And what I mean is, I can have, or we can have expectations on a person or a situation or an environment, and it's not realistic, right? We can see all the signs, we can see something telling us totally different, but because we want to be that person that sees the positive in people, because that's me, I like to see the positive in people, we create these expectations, right? And we think, what my mom always tell me, she always tells me, Mia, people are not like you. Even though you want people to be like you, but they're not like you. And when she tells me that, that's usually when I'm like, well, I would have done this for this person. I would have done this for that person. I would have considered this. I would have considered that. And she was like, Mia, not everybody moves like you. Not everybody thinks like you. You have to remember that. And she always reminds me of that. But I really held on to those expectations and they were shattered. But I held these things, constantly giving second chances, constantly trying to work things out when I should have just let it go and accepted it as is. And I didn't, which caused stress. And I'm hoping this is all making sense. However, during that transition period while dealing with that, I had to acknowledge some of those things. And it was other things, but those are the three or four things off the top of my head. I had to let go of those and replace those with things that I was holding on to, that I can hold on to, that has value, right? So by releasing those things a day at a time, an hour at a time, I had to reclaim intentional actions, or intentionality, if that's correct. I had to reclaim peace, cultural connection, healing, happiness, self love. I had to reclaim all those, and honesty. So by doing all that, it put me in a better position. And I also had to reclaim my voice too, because sometimes when you're in certain roles, there are certain stereotypes, consciously and not directly, that are placed on you. And I harbored some of those stereotypes. And I dealt with things like imposter syndrome. I dealt with the stereotypes that black women get very offensive or aggressive and stuff like that. And I'm not saying anybody said that to me, but these are things that I've heard. So I'm harboring these things, right? But I had to let go of those things in order to love me and get to know me. So that's a little bit about what I've been holding on to, and also what I had to let go of and reclaim, right? So trying to do it in sections to keep you with me. So going through all that, some of the things that I had to redo during that reclaiming session and let going session, I had to redefine a lot of things, right? And I had to really redefine things like, what does peace look like? What does rest look like? What does happiness look like? What does sanity look like? What does my home look like? What daily rituals am I able to do? What creativity haven't I done that I can get into? I had to learn to be still. I had to learn to be kind to myself. And that's what I did. So the past few months, I've been taking the steps to really take our time to be peaceful, to be intentional, to really love and appreciate my home, to not let things get under my skin, and also do self reflection if it does get under my skin, do self awareness of why it is. I've also been taking out time to do some sacred pampering. That's the latest book I'm on. Read more and just take on a new pace for life. And I've been doing really well. And when it comes to being outspoken, I'm definitely back to Mia. My theme has been I'm not going back. And that's been my going theme when I talk about things. Like, I'm not going back. I'm not taking the stress back again. I'm not going back to that neck pain, that fear. I'm not going back to that. So, needless to say, I am in a better place. I am definitely taking my time though to ease my way back into my other situations, my things that I really enjoy doing, because I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly and I'm pacing myself and I'm not stressing myself. So I say all that to say I'm here and I'm still posting things, but I just want to let you all know I was okay and I really wanted to share that experience with you. I feel I am going through a transformation of growth and self love and creating a peaceful home and a sacred space and all that good stuff. I also wanted to give a shout out to my family too, because they have been very supportive as well. And they've really had my back during all this and really been keeping me grounded. And also, friends, they've been keeping me grounded as well. I just wanted to do a check in and let you know I'm all right. And I hope you're all right. And just stay tuned because we're going to have more videos and I'm going to ease my way into it. But it's going to be more intentional. And you're going to get to know more about me, my home, and hopefully it inspires you to take care of you and to love you and get to know you. So, with that being said, thank you for tuning in. I hope that inspired and helped you in some shape or form. And thank you for staying loyal. Thank you for the new people coming in. And I hope to see you guys soon. That being said, you guys have an awesome day and stay super-tastic. Peace.